Wonder of the Wasteland by Zane Grey, Chapter 28, Part 2. Listen, you morbid girl, he returned, stung as with fire. I am not great, I am lost. I go to the desert because it is home. Don't think of me, but look to yourself. Look into your heart. Fear it, Ruth Feary. You are a spoiled, dreamful, passionate child, but you have a mind and you have a will. You can conquer your unrest, your discontent. Revere the memory of your mother, but grieve no more. The past is dead. Learn to fight. You're no fighter. You're weak. You give in to loneliness and sadness and longing. Resolve to be a woman. You must live your life, make it worthwhile. Every man, every woman has a burden. Lift yours cheerfully and begin to climb. Work for your grandfather. He needs your help. Love those with whom fate has placed you and fight. Fight the dark moods, the selfish thoughts, and the hateful memories. Fight like a desert beast for your life. Work and work till you bruise those beautiful hands. Work with a hoe if you can find nothing else. Love to see things grow green and flower and give fruit. Love the animals, the birds, and learn from them. Love all of nature so that when you meet a man someday, the man you can love, and you will love him. That is what it means to be a woman. You're a beautiful, sweet, useless, and petulant girl. But be so no more. Be a woman. Pale and shocked, with brimming eyes and tremulous lips, she replied, "Stay, stay, desert man, and make me a woman." And those dark, sad eyes and those sweet murmured words had made him flee like a craven in the night. Yes, for Ruth's sake he had fled, not a farewell to Jeannie, not a wave of his hand, but gone in a night and gone forever out of their lives. The foxes have holes, the birds of the air have nests, cried Adam to the listening silence. Was it he who lay there, broken heart and magnified sight? Yes, wonder of the wasteland again. Back to the lonely land, that limitless expanse of rock and sand was home. Was not that Ruth's face lined on the clouds? Did not her sad, reproachful eyes haunt him in the dim purple distances? From the lofty divide of the Sierra Madres, Adam gazed down into the void he called home. Beyond the gray sands and far beyond the red reaches, he saw across the California desert into Arizona and down into Mexico and to the dim blue Gulf. Home. All the years of Adam's desert experience were needed to grasp the meaning of the stupendous scene. The eye of the eagle, the sight of the condor, supreme over the desert, most marvelous and delicate work of nature, could only behold, could only range that sun-blasted, burned-out empire of the wastelands. Only the mind of man, the thought of man, could understand it. And for Adam, it was home, and to his piercing eyes, a thing, a place, a world terribly true and beautiful and comforting, upon which he seemed driven to gaze and gaze, so that forever it must be limed on his vision and his memory. The day was one of sunlight and storm, of blue sky and purple clouds and fleecy white, of palls of swirling gray snow and dark veils of downward streaming rain. The Sierra Madres rolled away on either side, range on range, rising to the north in the might of slow, league-long mountain swell, until far against the stormy sky stood the old white-capped heave of San Jorginho, looming over the gray Mojave. And to the south, like the wave undulations of a calm sea, sank the long, low lines of the arid arm of the desert land. Beneath Adam piled the foothills, round and old and gray, sage gray, lavender gray, lilac gray, all so straggly gray, upheaved hills of aged earth and dust and stone. Hill by hill they lowered, with glaring gorges between solitary hills and winding ranges and clustered domes, split by canyons and cleft by brushy ravines. Miles and miles of foothills, reluctantly surrendering allegiance to the peaks above, moving downward as surely as the grains of their slopes, weathering and spreading at last in the sands. Away and away flowed that gray Sahara, with its specks of age ribbed by the ridges of dunes. Immense and unbounded, it swept to its center. The Salton Sink, bowl of the desert, a great lake of colored silt, ghastly glaring stain on the earth, over which the storm clouds trailed their veils of rain and shadows like colossal ships, sailing the sandy main. Away to the southward it flowed, level and shining at last to rise and meet the blue sky in lucent spurs of gold and white. This landmark contrasted singularly with the Salton Sink. It was the elusive and shifting line of the Superstition Mountains, where the wind sheeted the sands, and by night or day, like the changing of tides, went on with its mysterious transformation. These giant sandhills caught the sunlight through a rift in the broken clouds, and dim under the dunes showed the scalloped, dark shadows. But these foothills and sand plains were only the edge of the desert. Beyond marched the mountain ranges, vast, upheaved, crinkled crust of naked earth, scored by fire, scarred by age, cracked by earthquake, and stained in the rusty reds and colored chocolates of the iron rocks. Down to the rim of the Salton Sink sheered a ragged range, and over it centered the lowering storm clouds, gray and drab and purple, with rays of the sun filtering through, lighting the grim dark hardness, showing the smoky gloom, and where the ridge ran down to the desert to make the lines of the sandy lake, it resembled the shore of the river Styx. Beyond gleamed the chocolate mountains, sharp in the sunshine, canyoned and blue, and still beyond them, over the valley and far, rose the myriad mountains of Arizona, dim and hazed, mystic land like a land of desert dreams. In the distant south, around the blunt end of the chocolates, came a valley, winding palely and green, with a line following its center, where the Rio Colorado meandered in its course to the blue waters of the Gulf. Over the shadowy shapes of the mountains in haze, over the horizon of Arizona, there seemed a blank, pale wall of sky, strange to the eye. Was it the oblivion of sight, the infinitude of heaven? Piercing constant gaze at last brought to Adam the ghostly mountains of Mexico, the faintest of faint tracery of peaks, doubtful and then lost, the lonely Sonoran desert. "And that is my home," he cried to the wind. Slow tears bathed his eyes, and closing them he rested his strained sight. A strange peace seemed to have stolen over him with its vision and grasp of the desert. A low, soft moan of wind in the crevices of rocks lulled his senses for the revel that was to come. He heard his burros nipping at the brush behind his back. From the heights an eagle shrilled its wild whistle of freedom and solitude, and one of the burros brayed loud and bawling a jarring note in a silence. A discordant sound it was that yet brought a smile and a pang to Adam, for only yesterday, or was it long ago? What was it that had happened? When he opened his eyes, the desert under him and the infinity over him had been transfigured. Only the full blaze of the sun, but a glory dwelt in the clouds and in the wide blue expanse of heaven. Silver-edged rents, purple ships in a golden sky, the long fan-shaped rays of the sun, white rainbows of haze. These extended from the north across the arch To the open, a great peacefulness of light, deep and tender and blue. And beneath lay the mirror of earth, the sun-fired ranges like chased and beaten gold, laid with shining jewels all around the resplendent desert. Mountains of porphyry marched down to the sands. Rocks of bronze red burned down to the sands. The white columnar pillars of the clouds seemed reflected in the desert. Slow gliding across the lucent waste, and the mosaic of mountain and plain had its mirage in the sky. Above and below worked the alchemy of nature, mutable and evanescent, the dying of day, the passing of life. End of chapter 28.